Good evening, everyone, and a very, very happy welcome. This is going to be our session, our last session for 2021. It's been a huge journey, a really long and a very, 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 very beautiful journey. So, Pan and Mama are here. 83 weeks we've been working with you, learning with you, and Pan, of course, and Mama has never ever let us down. So today, in the cold winter evening, Pan is sitting when the sun is just going down, just enjoying the last rays of the sun. And oh, the winters can be such fun. Just thinking and looking at the sky, he thinks of all the things he learned and how he must continue to learn and try. His mama, who is a teacher, is sitting with him. And today, Daddy is cooking a meal for them as a special treat. Mama thinks of all the things that she and Pan helped us to learn and how each activity and concept have been so much fun. We began the session on 8th of May 2020 and have met for 83 weeks. It's a really beautiful and long journey. We have tried to talk of some things old and many new. We met every week and learned things few. Square Panda had a dream to create a community of people who care, people who want to come together and for early years, just simply share. So Pan, Mother, and me simply shared their dream of these 83 work weeks for you to see. So walk, work, share, learn, and what a beautiful journey it's been. So I have to thank you both for being with me. Right. So, today what I thought was I must consolidate all the things we learned in this segment. Just recall each week that we did and why we did that particular topic. Also, it helps us to consolidate. It's always good to consolidate. That's one very, very important lesson of the early years, consolidation, right? So that's what we are going to do today. Very true to the early years. We are going to consolidate what we have learned. We changed from the Square Panda Sunday to the Square Panda Thursday as the lockdown opened and things began to change. Yes, these last 2 years have been a bit strange. We talked about domains that we needed to know. Social emotional domain, sensorial and creative domain, cognitive domain, physical domain, and language domain for the overall development to show. So understanding domains for all curriculum creators are very important to know. Whether it's parents, it's good that you understand why a certain activity is being done so that you understand that one activity can cover multiple domains. It's very, very important. A small thing like this, I pick up a bottle, I open it. So it's a physical domain. I look at the amount of water, I learn how to compare it. I drink the water and I taste it. So I know that, it's tasteless. So at the end of the day, a simple activity like this has covered multiple domains. So if you understand these domains, if you know about them, you automatically will be able to slot activities into multiple domains. You may be able to pick up one activity one day and say physical development. Next day, you can use it for comparison. Third day, you can use it for language development. So understanding of domains is that important. Then came the importance of learning styles, balancing the way children learn the multiple intelligence, how every child likes to learn in their own combination of ways. What is more dominant in each child? Therefore, if you have activities that touch multiple domains and have activities of various kinds, they could be a singing, they could be a dancing, they could be just reading quietly, they could be a thinking activity, a group activity. All of this will touch children with different learning needs. So understanding the way children learn was also important. Then came the importance of the parent, teacher, and child connect, And a wonderful team from Amrita Vidyalayam talked to us and told us how they made the triangle really strong. They said that the digital helped to connect all the three all along. So also this is going to become a very important source of keeping connect with the parents, even after the children come back, and we really hope they're back soon. But the digital connect can remain with the parents so that if you need any activities to be sent, you need sampling, you need music, you need audio, you need a story pattern, it can immediately reach the parent. And already a lot of schools are going into that, right? Then the learning milestones. Then came the learning milestones and their importance for the next talk. The more we understand the levels of learning, the happier we can walk the NEP talk. So if we don't understand milestones, that means at which age and at which level, how much should we teach the children? We will definitely find it difficult to implement. But if we understand learning milestones, it's a very, very important aspect. So domains, learning styles, parent connect, milestones. Then came the importance of consolidating the learning of the pre-primary in the initial part of class 1. You know what the Vidya Pravesh is talking about, what the combination of the first 3 months is talking about. So not to forget that children need to recap once so much is done, and so much is done in the early years. They do not grow up in a week from the pre-primary to class 1. So learning still has to be a lot of activity and a lot of fun. So we must remember there is a reason for this changeover. Then came the importance of the teacher to self-reflect. And Nanu Rekhi ma'am joined us from the Balbharti schools to talk about how continuous professional development can be done with a lot of internal interaction and can be activity with buddies, teachers being buddies and teams, and it can be so much fun. So development or teacher development is not a teacher learning and going to teach a higher class, but to be in the same class and improve her reach. So teach to reach in a better way is what we talked about. Then came the importance of the teacher to self-reflect. And it was so important that the self-reflection should be aided. It should be aided in a very, very fine fashion, and schools and systems have to create time for that self-reflection. I think this was one thing which was very, very importantly said, that, we are only rushing the teachers and expecting them to do everything. Whereas that is not possible if you don't give the teacher realistic time to do it. So get your systems, get your processes absolutely clear and in place. And that is how the teacher professional development will be much easier and much better. Also, after every few months, see that it is consolidated. See that it is assessed. We all look at it and say, okay, so we learned this. How much did we apply? How is it applicable in our classroom? So converting my development of a teacher into a classroom situation, into the classroom, leading them to their skills to reach the children. That's what is the most important part of it. So now the basics were done. You did the domains, the multiple intelligences, the parent-teacher connect, milestones, and now the next thing we talked about was getting set and getting ready to go. What all do you need to prepare and plan? Because that's the only way to do activities successfully. So what we had to show was planning and preparation were very, very important. So one needs to plan the resources, the time, and the activity settings too. The activities can be done individually, in small and big groups, and in pairs of 2. So every activity can be done in different formats. So even when you design your activity, it has to be decided, how are you going to do it? Who is going to get together? So that's the intricacy of the activity design. Now that the planning was done, came the managing of online and offline activity time. We talked about sustained eye contact. We said the little children don't leave the eye contact, and precise instructions. Don't give very long instructions. Those are the 2 very important things that will give online learning a continuation from the start. So a good online connect and very, very precise instructions, all the way going back to the planning that we were talking about. So even that must be well thought of. And we also have to understand that once children come back to school, there may be times that you will need to look at this whole thing in a much better way. So and also in a way that is like a continuous. So suppose suddenly, god forbid, I mean, we don't wish it, but if there is a close down or there is a short gap where the children need to prepare, then the balance continues to be, right? So the next one was nurturing responsible citizens. Once children began to participate in all the activities, then it is also important for them to be responsible and help in home and school, to understand that duties and work can also be really cool. Make duty charts and mark them every day, whether the children are in school or at home. Please mark them every day. Responsibility has to become a habit, and this could be the way. So starting with just responsibility and charts, it really helps to engage the children. It helps to make the children so much more involved in what we want them to do. Then we met young change makers working with social emotional development. And Smriti and her team gave us the most amazing tips. They shared a positivity manual, and they created activities and stories too. So when you're talking about social emotional development, it's so important. They talked about how this domain is more important than the rest, how research has put it to test, how we need to continuously work with this domain, and some more. It's definitely an important thing for sure. So also when the children come back, there will be an emotional gap because they have not had the peer learning that is what is necessary for early years. So instead of getting worried about what the children will not learn academically, we also have to be very, very concerned on how we are going to take a very, very conscious decision on how the social emotional development will be taken care of. The next one was building community values. So once you build the values within the children, the discipline, the duties, the emotional development, then growing them to be community values. And that was what the next thing we talked about, as to build good citizens. It's important without a doubt. So while we are talking about, I'm told that, when the new NCF comes in, it's a lot of skills and values it's talking about. So we better be ready for it. Community values are so important for any success. Now we moved from the community around us to building multiculturalism and accepting differences, learning from all, accepting all. And we had Dr. Beni Prasad, who's a world record holder for the fastest travel to 245 nations. And he runs this beautiful chai, healing center in Bangalore, where he actually sits down and talks to people. And after traveling all over the world, he talked about the food, the music, and the humanness that he discovered, and how he recovered from failures, and how travel and music helped him to, take this forward. So just children understanding therapy, talking, and most important, allowing children to explore and to understand that there are different ways of doing the same thing. There are different kinds of people, there are different kinds of food. We have parents telling us very proudly, कि हमारा बच्चा तो ये खाता ही नहीं है. My child just doesn't do this. My child just doesn't do this. Well, it's not something to be very proud of. And also, it is creating a lot of restriction in growth of this little child. So if your child is very, very, reluctant, please expose the child to other foods, other ways of doing things. And then you can hope that the child becomes a little more in acceptance of differences. It's a very important. The next one that came out was that reaching out from the screen is the best thing that the teachers can do. Actually reach out to the children. And the magic was really seen. This online time was difficult, but teachers with eye contact, music, activities, rhymes, stories, puppets, actually went and popped out, like come touch me, or, show them a little puppet, or let's play a little game. So many teachers did a wonderful, wonderful job of reaching into the homes of children by the very way they used this platform. So, like I say, they came out of the screens into the homes of the children. And then we talked about balancing online time when the children are online and they're continuously looking at the screen, how to do it with yoga. And we had Priyanka coming back. She's a yoga teacher and practitioner. She had come to us in our last session, came back and talked about simple things to do, small stretching, blinking consciously, closing the eyes and breathing, just turning your neck from side to side, up and down. And she said that even these 5 or 6 activities can actually make this entire online strain a little better. So can you keep them? So just to be still, just to close your eyes and just very, very comfortably just be, right? So that was a very, very important part of this whole process. So she said that if you don't want the children to sit on the screen and be ill, so then yoga will keep them away from medicines and pills. And I thought that was a beautiful way. And I actually saw when I sit for 3 or 4 hours, when I'm doing my trainings, I now are conscious that I have to blink or I need to straighten my back. So it really helps. Then it was time to build mindful mindsets with Meenal, who talked about how our attitudes can affect the learners. So small, right? That mindsets can be practices, and we do not need to nurture and be negative with the children at all. So an attitude consciously developed with children and mindsets was what we discussed, that when you're with children, try and be as less negative because it will affect them. Then came the nurturing the love for cultural heritage with a young restoration architect, Nitya Henry. And she had so much fun. And she said that we must just care for each one. So it was fun to listen to her, but she said that right from the beginning, teach children to care for each one. They have centuries of culture, stories of dynasties and kings, and we must take children to see them and see what the wonder brings. So when we take children to a walk or consciously take them to parks which are around historic places, then read about that particular place, talk to the children about it, tell them, this is what was there. So allow them to, enjoy the place rather than just go out and, just play and come back. So it's important to nurture interest, So you can do that. It's a wonderful time. Winter is here. Take the children all around to places many of us are traveling. Many of us are not traveling. So look for places around your homes on Sundays for an hour. Take your children out. And before you take them out, excite them. Tell them that this is the place we are going to. This is what we are going to see. Maybe you can, search online for some information and see how it goes with the children. I think it really, really helps. Then came the language segment. And for this, the Square Panda Resource People's team stepped in. So Shubhi, Antaryami, Sumati, and Faraz, they talked about phonological awareness. And Shubhi gave me this beautiful, little tongue twister, and I loved it. So I asked her to send it again so that we could go through it once together. So yellow butter, purple jelly, red jam, brown bread. Spread it thick and say it quick. So you have to say it faster now. Yellow butter, purple jelly, red jam, brown bread. Spread it thick and say it quick. So yellow butter, purple jelly, red jam, brown bread. Spread it thick and say it quick. So small activities like this, which could actually generate interest in the children. I think that was so important. And Daryami said something beautiful. He said that, language is learned on the move, when you're interacting with people, when you're listening to people on a natural environment. Nothing better than that. Sumati told us about how the most simple resources, cardboard boxes, low-cost resources can really help children with language. How language posters, anything which is like a comprehensive poster for picture reading, how you should be consciously collecting pictures from newspapers, from old magazines, put them together, make these little, you know, collages and help children to learn. And Farah said something really interesting. He said that he runs, during the lockdown, he started working with something called the Jhola Library. I mean, I found it amazing. I think he said that he took a cloth bag and put some storybooks in it. And every week he would travel to some area close to where he lived, it could be little on the outskirts. And slowly he started sitting and reading to children. So initially, few would come and then he would leave the story incomplete and said, I'll come back next week. And children would wait for him. Gradually, the books became like a lending. And just that little bag of books became that little source to reach out to children. I thought that was beautiful. That it really takes not much for you to create a community around you with very minimal resources. All you need to do is to have the will to do it. So I also felt nice because these are the people who Square Panda is also nurturing, Also the whole community, each one who's coming back to us. The next one was Neha Tiwari. She's a speech therapist and she revisited us and she spoke about the importance of phonics for children with learning difficulties. She said that phonics is a scientific process. It goes from readiness to understanding that each word is made of multiple sounds. That kind of clarity would help children who already are having learning difficulties. So don't ignore the understanding of phonics, phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and then taking the children to. So phonological awareness would be rhyming words, alliteration. Phonemic awareness would be oral blending, segmenting, listening to proper concrete sounds in words, just listening. And then phonics would be the sound symbol association so that the child can associate a symbol with the sound. And I think that's what is going to make the children good with what they have to do. And then we had a beautiful session on learning Hindi. And Meenakshi Agarwal ma'am came in and she said something very interesting. She said that, Hindi is it's a pure phonic language, Vishuddh Dhvanatmak Bhasha. So when it's a pure phonic language, don't try and use it with English. Try and use pure languages. It works so beautifully. And then we talked about time management, how important it is to manage your time and how planning and readiness can help you. So be calm, never shout, teach your children to understand and care, to work in groups and share, to understand that the class has to work together and each help each other out. So be calm, patient, and just move happily about. So correct, precise timing of work is very, very important. And Nitisha Gupta talked about folk tools in storytelling and how we can actually bring it alive in our classrooms. Simple beats, simple rhythmic stories really, really help. And then we had this lovely nurturing, art through performing arts and drama. Himanshu from the Sri Ram School demonstrated a whole lot of activities. I do suggest these programs are revisited if you miss them because they're rich. They have so much to give us. The expanse and reach of the Edtech is real. It has been real. And it was discussed by Tracy, who's the Director Education at Square Panda. And she spoke about how their teams are actually reaching into the heart of India and using a combination of activities and technology to reach the children, the parents, and the teachers. Dr. Sapna Agarwal talked to us about the Vidya Pravesh and the Connect to Class 1, which we talked about. Good time to consolidate. And then we went to the world of numbers and what they should be meaning on ground and all around. So the numeracy part of it. Supporting teachers in continuous development with Edtech. Chandraji talked about this again, a very senior member of the Square Panda team and talked about how the Edtech actually can help in the professional development of teachers, how it will help them reach them. It's also something which is important for all of us to keep researching, doing courses and upgrading ourselves. So online teaching as an alternative profession. This was interesting, done by Prerna Maheshwari. Said that, a lot of people have quit, but online teaching would not mean school teaching. It would also mean language classes, drama classes, and so on and so forth. So do research this. It's a big world out there. If you want to change a thought and a pattern of your profession, it's a great world out there to do that. And then in the last few weeks, we had Ranjini, who was from the Square Panda team who specializes in cognitive neuroscience. And she talked about learning gaps in a very, very interesting way. Just before that, Tripta Tarunesh talked to us about the learning gap with the date of birth, saying that a child in the same class born in 2020 April and 2021 March is in the same class. So the difference is more than 300 days. And that sometimes can be a very serious learning gap in the sense of readiness of the child. It's not that the child is not good enough. It is just that the child is that much younger than this child. And it does sometimes make a difference. So it was a good perspective, followed up by Ranjini, who said that learning gap is not only about this whole patch and process that we've gone through in the last 2 years. It could be a basic gap of systems, how systems are created and how we need to be conscious. Another very important thing that she told us is that reading is an acquired skill and needs to be taught systematically to children. It doesn't come naturally to them. So this is something which we must be able to do. And then we wound it up with a lot of grammar activities and a lot of fun and what all we can do with children. And we have tried to cover as many topics, as many variations as we can. And the whole purpose of these sessions, even today when I consolidated, was so that we actually saw a string coming through, where you started with why, how to set it going and different topics. So I think we will continue this journey with more people. We do, and we invite you all, if you feel that, you would like to contribute, you would like to be on, one of the evenings with us, please write into the Square Panda team and we will connect with you and, bring you onto this platform to share, because that was the whole purpose of this platform. We also very consciously kept this platform as a platform that was ready to just interact and share. So I do seriously hope that we keep the connect. The holiday season is almost there. And so wishing you all a very, very happy, cheerful New Year. A very, very Merry Christmas to everyone. And I hope that this time the bells bring in a lot of good health and cheer to everybody. And we'll be seeing you on the 6th of January now. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Square Panda.